Hi, welcome back to Mutant Memories. Today I'm going to talk about the New Mutants issue number 5. The title of this issue is Heroes, and it was released on July 10th, 1983. The plot. The first main splash panel shows Charles Xavier falling down and screaming in pain. His girlfriend Lilandra runs in to help him. They are both puzzled about why Xavier still cannot stand even though his body was rebuilt. He tells her that he is a very powerful telepath, so he wonders why he cannot overcome what he thinks is a purely mental issue. Lilandra tells him that they will figure it out. Then he tells her the episode has caused his mental link to the New Mutants to be severed. Lilandra said it will probably be okay, and they won't get into trouble. They are just out having a nice day with Stevie Hunter. The New Mutants are at a fair with Stevie, and they are having a lot of fun. They are eating sweets and playing games and doing all sorts of fun things. Roberto convinces Danny to go on an airplane ride. After the kids group up again, they see the motorcycle performance troupe Team America, whose members, Reddy, the Wolf, and Cowboy are getting their bikes ready for a show. Roberto is excited because he has seen Team America perform before and he says they are great. He decides he wants to get an autograph, which he claims is for his sister, but it is obvious he's the one who really wants the autograph. Cowboy is kind to Berto, and Berto tells him where he is from. And Cowboy says, just like our brash buddy, referring to Wolf. But Wolf is very harsh with Berto and tells him to go away, and Berto says something smart and leaves. Cowboy reveals that only half the team will be at the performance, but he is glad Wolf and Reddy will be there because it's for charity. Cowboy also hopes that this will bring more attention to his riding school as well. Reddy and Wolf both claim to be the best rider to each other. Rain tells Berto that even though Wolf and she have the same namesake, she doesn't like him. Roberto says he agrees with her, and Stevie tells the kids it's time to go get a seat for the motorcycle show. The kids and Stevie walk away, closely followed by 3 members of Team America. Then we see a mysterious person staring at all of them through binoculars. The figure says that they will want to capture the targets alive. The show is really exciting, and the kids are having a great time. Rain almost can't look. She's afraid the riders are going to be killed. The show goes well until the last event. A finale that is a 50-lap race on a 1-mile track. But when the Team America riders are flagged to start, there is an explosion. A group of soldiers converges on Team America, and everyone in the stands is running and panicking. Stevie tells the New Mutants that something is wrong because Xavier is not answering her mind call, whatever that is. Sam decides to help Team America. Shan says not to at first, but pretty quickly she changes her mind and nods Cannonball forward. Team America sees Cannonball crash the villains and join the fight. Shan is knocked unconscious. All the kids in Team America fight when the Silver Samurai shows up. Then the mysterious Dark Rider roars onto the scene on their bike. The Dark Rider fights with the Silver Samurai, but is ultimately defeated by him. When the Silver Samurai takes off the Dark Rider's helmet, it is revealed that the Dark Rider was actually Psyche. The Silver Samurai says he wishes he could teach the kids a lesson, but he is loyal to Viper, so he takes Danny and leaves. Sunspot rushes to stop him, but is unsuccessful because he slips in the mud at the villain's feet. The Silver Samurai goes through the portal, taking Danny with him. Shan is unconscious, and the rest of the New Mutants are left collecting themselves after everything that had just happened. Sam is angry with himself that he couldn't control his power better. They all notice Danny is missing. Psyche wakes up sometime later in a location unknown to her. She is told by a disembodied female voice that she must ride a motorcycle to escape from peril. 2 spiked wheels head toward Danny, but she doesn't know how to ride the motorcycle, so she just has to jump out of the way. The wheels crush the motorcycle. Another wheel heads towards Danny, but it stops at the last minute, and a door opens in the white room she is in. The Silver Samurai comes in and tells Danny to come with him. Danny wonders if he knows she is a mutant, and thinks to herself that the samurai is big, and she bets she could outrun him, especially if she used her mutant power on him first. But she decides not to run away right away, because she doesn't really know anything about the place she is being held or even where she is located. Samurai brings her to a room where Viper is waiting. Viper tells Danny she is a marvel, and that Danny's ignorance of the motorcycle seemed convincing. She questions Danny as to why she was able to ride the bike perfectly at the fairgrounds and also asks what her connection to Team America is. Psyche explains that she has no connection to them, and Viper counters this by asking how she appeared as the Dark Rider if she has no connection to Team America. Danny says she has no idea. Danny begins to get too angry and her concentration slips, and before she can stop herself, she pulls an image from Viper's mind. The image she pulls out is Viper running through a war-torn Europe alone and vulnerable. Viper lashes out at Danny, smacking her and calling her a witch. She tells Danny she will pay for this with her life. Back at Xavier, Colonel Rossi is assisting Professor Xavier in assessing the situation and trying to find Danny. Xavier notes he can no longer get a connection to Danny, even with the aid of Cerebro. Rossi has given Xavier files on the Silver Samurai, who is a talented warrior who dons an energy sword, Viper, who was formerly Madame Hydra, who has a talent for surviving and was reportedly blown up shortly before this. This is a reference to the Captain America comic, issue number 283. And he also gives Charles a file on the Black Rider. The Black Rider only appears when Team America needs him, and only for as long as they need him, but he's a master of writing and electronics, and even theft, among other things. They all wonder why Danny was dressed as the Black Rider because she is not talented in any of those areas. Xavier decides to seek help from Cerebro in finding the answer to this, and either Rain or Stevie, kind of unclear, I think it's Stevie, wonder how Xavier can wield such power yet not be corrupted. Seriously, I just talked about this in my last video. Charles finds the answer to his question. In Washington, D.C., Viper wakes up a sleeping Honcho McDonald, explaining that she wants him to gather Team America so they can steal an object in the Sierra Mountains of Mexico. McDonald asks why he would follow her instructions, and she explains she is holding a young woman who is one of Team America's fans hostage. McDonald, or Honcho as he is commonly known, asks for proof, but Viper says he must believe her. Honcho says he will help her, but he cannot speak for the rest of the team. But Viper says without the whole team, the mission is certain suicide. She tells him she has contacted everyone else on the team, and they have until morning to decide to help her. She tells him that after the morning, they have 24 hours to get her the object she desires. Team America, I think they're later called the Thunder Riders, meet up that morning and talk about whether they should believe Viper or not. Some think they should, others don't. Wrench's girlfriend, Georgiana, tells them an innocent girl's life is possibly at stake and they should do what they can to help. They discuss it a little more when suddenly there is a knock at the door. Honcho grabs a gun and Wolf turns out the lights because they think it could be Viper. But when the door opens, it's Professor X. He tells them that he is there to help them. The New Mutants and Xavier enter, and Team America recognizes the kids from the fair. Bobby is hot-headed, and Wolf is nasty back to him. Honcho explains Xavier is a teacher and a scientist and is a leading authority on mutants. Professor tells him this is true, and not only is he and the kids all mutants, but the members of Team America are as well. He tells them Team America is a projecting gestalt. This means that in moments of extreme danger, the group possesses a victim, and that victim becomes the Dark Rider. Charles explains that this happened to Danny, and now she is in danger due to Team America not being able to control their powers and being a danger because they can't control their powers. Xavier basically tells them that they will aid the New Mutants in getting Danny back, and they don't have a choice in whether or not they will do so. He tells them that they're going to help, period. Wolf says this isn't his responsibility, and Bobby changes into his sunspot form and grabs him. He screams that Danny might die because of Team America possessing her. Georgiana tells Professor X that this isn't fair, and he tells her that what happened to Danny wasn't fair either, and that when you are a mutant, you have a certain responsibility that comes with your powers. Wolf says that the kids should leave, and Xavier agrees because of the friction between Wolf and Birdo. The professor stays to aid Team America. The kids leave, and they are very angry Xavier chose to aid Team America. But Xavier explains in their minds that if he aids Team America, that will buy them time for Danny until he can summon the X-Men. He believes the X-Men are the best chance of defeating Viper and saving Danny. Birdo does not accept this at all and tells Xavier that he made a speech to them. This happened just a few issues before, about how he would help them and take care of them, but now he was not helping Danny. The professor stands by his decision and says these choices are never easy. He tells them that he will remain with Team America. After Xavier is done talking with them psychically, the New Mutants are very upset. Shan asks Birdo how he could talk to the professor like this and explains that the professor does what he feels is best. Then she says that they must also do what they think is best, and she tells them that they will rescue Danny with or without the professor's aid. Xavier knows what they are doing because he can read their minds and thinks about how brave the kids are, but he is worried about the consequences of everything that is happening. He hopes that if there is any life lost, it's his own. That's when I originally read this. Okay, so confession time. I have never read this issue very closely before. For some reason, this one just did not keep my interest when I first read it. And honestly, it was a little bit rough this time around too. But I will get into that in a minute when I talk about my current thoughts. When I originally read this, I felt confused because I had no idea who Team America was, and I didn't even think to look on the internet or anything for explanation. I guess I wasn't invested at all. I did like how this comic started as something more casual, when they were just at the fair having fun. But I was just not into this storyline or Team America. I like Viper okay, and Silver Samurai is actually pretty cool, but he is very underutilized in this. Overall, this is one of my least favorite issues of the entire series. I felt meh about this one the first time I read it, so I don't have much more to say about my original thoughts. Thoughts and impressions upon rereading. So I don't like this issue. I don't like that Team America was basically the star of the book in a way. Around this time, Marvel was really trying to make Team America into the next big thing. They were really trying to make it happen. Captain America writer J.M. DeMatteis described Team America as another one we kind of got forced into doing. The month following their May 1982 preview appearance in Captain America, Team America's monthly self-titled series launched. It was cancelled with Team America number 12, May 1983. Honestly, I see why. None of these characters or none of these team members are very likable. They just seem like caricatures of heroes on a cheesy late 70s adventure show. Or, well, we'll get to that. They try so hard to give them each a personality, but man, I can't remember who is who, really. All I remember is Wolf is kind of the worst. Maybe Wolf gets better in later issues. Honestly, I don't have the energy to explain anything else about them, other than I'll say this, that they were originally a toy line before they were a comic book, and it really shows. They do kind of read like a bad Saturday morning cartoon in the early 80s. I will say that I am not a fan of Team America, or the Thunder Riders as they were later called. Also, I probably don't have to mention this, but all I think of every time I read Team America is Team America World Police. America, yeah, coming again to save the day, yeah, America, yeah. I just keep hearing that song. I didn't like the art very much either in this issue. It was kind of boring, and honestly, I like similar art in previous comics, but for some reason, I just felt this one was kind of rushed looking and ugly. Also, I kind of agree with the New Mutants that it was really bad that Xavier didn't want to help Danny right away. Also, where are the X-Men at this point? Why couldn't they help out right away? As far as I can tell, at this point in the X universe, the X-Men are at the X-Mansion. The concurrent issue to New Mutants number 5 in Uncanny X-Men is Uncanny X-Men 171, I believe. It's the issue where Rogue joins the X-Men. Professor Xavier is also at the X-Mansion at this point. It's shown pretty clearly in X-Men 171. So when did this storyline in New Mutants 5 actually take place? When did Xavier just F off and train Team America? I don't understand why or when this issue happens. I do kind of like that the kids have realistic battles and struggles with their powers, but honestly, there's just not that much that's good in this issue, in my opinion. Rating. So my final rating of this, I gave it a 4 out of 10. A 2 for art, a 1 for the story, a 1 for character development, and a 0 for how it holds up. So I really don't like this issue, and it's been difficult to work on this video, so I apologize that it took a lot longer for this one to come out than Mutant Memories normally do, but in the future it'll be back to normal programming. So as a special treat, I had SakoTumi, my dear friend, read this issue as well. She has not really read much of the New Mutants before, which sucks because this is her first experience with the book really, but I wanted an opinion about this book from a person who didn't have a background in this book. and really didn't have much experience. I wanted to see if another comic book nerd liked this issue or not, and the thoughts she had about Team America. So I will insert our chat here. This video will definitely be a lot longer, and it's kind of funny that it'll be longer because it's an issue I didn't like, but SAKO very graciously offered to kind of talk about things with me so I would have better ideas of what to say in this video. So here is our talk about New Mutants number 5. And I'm using my bad microphone in this recording, so I sound really weird and really sick. I always sound really bad on this microphone, and I keep forgetting to plug this microphone in, so I apologize for that. Also, there is, I believe, cat screams in the video, but I'm going to try and edit it out as best I can. Alright, enjoy! Hi everyone, I have SAKO with me as promised to talk about New Mutants number 5. She's really doing me a huge favor because, as I mentioned earlier in this video, or at least I'm guessing I will mention earlier in this video, I did not like this issue. So I kind of was dragging my feet of actually talking about it and finishing the script and recording. So SAKO said very nicely that she would come and fill in some gaps and we would have more to talk about with her here. SaKo, you can go ahead and introduce yourself in case people haven't watched the other video with you.
Hi, everybody. I'm SakoTumi. I have been reading comics since I was in 5th grade. I'm now 40 years old. X-Men is kind of my jam, but New Mutants had X-Men in it, So I hope that we have a really rad conversation today.
Okay, awesome. First, I want to say I'm really, really sorry that this is kind of probably your introduction to the New Mutants. I don't know how much you have read besides this book.
I read some of the later 80s stuff.
Yeah, that's probably for the best, honestly. Like, I love. Oh, cat. Yeah, that's probably for the best. The later issues are a lot better than the beginning issues. The first couple issues are okay. Like, they kind of set up the characters and you learn about their powers and their personalities. But, like, this one is just.
It's kind of slapdash.
It's not good. So, go ahead and just tell me what you thought initially.
If I were to sum it up in a sentence, Claremont was pulling at straws for this one. I felt like slippery slope emotions were throughout the whole issue, and I actually took notes as I was reading, oh my god, the badly written accents. That was jarring.
Yeah, it is kind of like, I don't have as much of a problem with Bobby or Sunspot. He sounds okay to me, but like, I think it was Wolf. That was just so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he. Oh my god.
I was kind of making fun of the motorcycle Team America gang. Are you ready? Really? Are you serious?
Yeah, I've done a little research, and this was kind of just something that, like, I guess Marvel purchased Team America from a toy company who invented them. So Marvel was like, "Well, we've got these toys, so let's make a comic book about it." And they tried really, really hard to push it. They tried their best.
Every page they said each other's names.
And you know what? I still had trouble remembering their names when I was like writing the when I was doing like my synopsis of the comic book, I kept like at one point when Viper wakes the one guy up, Honcho, I was like, wait, who is that? Because they just said his last name. And I was
Right.
just like, I guess he's a Team America person, but they were just so forgettable. It
I
was just
think Honcho is Professor X.
no, Honcho is the main. See, this is how bad it is. Like honestly, like
They were just shouting names at a
yeah,
group. So it was
it's
like there was Cowboy, there was El Lobo, there was Honcho, there was Wolf.
yeah, that's all of them, I think. I think that's
And
all of them.
well, and Georgiana and
Yeah, she's
two
actually,
more.
you know what? She actually is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, she had like two panels where she said stuff.
Yeah, I guess like since I've read more about it, like she actually the Dark Rider, she becomes the Dark Rider a lot later in their later appearances, and she's
Okay.
kind of like a badass. So she's pretty cool. She's actually probably my favorite character of this group.
The idea that the Dark Rider was an entity that was formed by their powers that um, possesses people was
Yeah.
that like quintessential Claremont, like trying to make things a little more interesting where there is nothing
They
interesting.
tried. He tried so hard. He really did.
Yeah, it was oh my gosh, what was another one? Oh, Wrench the Mechanic was one of them.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, they're really original with some of these names. Wrench the Mechanic. Oh, okay.
I have literally never in my entire time of collecting comic books had someone mention this comic, like the Team America, or they're called something else later, like
Oh yeah.
oh yeah. Oh gosh, I can't remember what they're called. They changed their name. And the whole time, like, I'm sure I'm gonna mention this in the video. Oh, Lily's my cat's screaming. um, I'm sure I'm gonna mention this, but like, I just kept thinking of like Team America, fuck yeah! Like, I just kept thinking that over and over and over. And like,
Yeah.
it's funny because they seemed like a cheesy group, and that's kind of what Team America is making fun of. So I thought that was really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it is funny. Um, what's up with the flower on Hanada's chest? Like, I don't remember there being a flower on Silver Samurai's armor.
I'm not sure. I haven't read like I've read things with him in it, but like that was another complaint I had that I'm sure I'm going to talk about is that he was so underutilized in this book. But the next issue I have read as well, and it's actually a lot better. It's not really Team America centered. It's more like an adventure where they try and save Danny, and they actually like go to Viper's place, and it's just a lot more exciting. So that I
Yeah.
kept thinking that, and I was like, I
You're
just
just
got to
like
get through
waiting.
this.
I just got to get through this so I can get to the good stuff. Let's
Yeah,
see.
what did you think about the art?
Um, the printing was good. The pencils were good, but in a way where, like, again, they were like just shouting names to a group, and
Yeah,
the way they were trying to um,
there's actually a panel where I honestly don't know who's talking.
yeah,
I was like, it could be Rain, it could be Stevie. I have no idea.
yeah,
Which I was like, ugh, that's just, it seems sloppy to me compared to the other
it is
issues.
sloppy.
They were really tight.
That is a
Yeah.
good word for it. It was sloppy. Um, Xavier, uh, they're too powerful. I must train them at the cost of going after Danny and
Yeah,
shit like that.
I super disagreed with that. I was just like, yeah, no wonder the kids are upset. Like,
No wonder the
literally,
kids are
you
upset.
probably don't know this, but like a couple, maybe like an issue or two before, he's like, I'm gonna protect you guys. I'm gonna train you guys. Um, I'm I'm sorry that like I haven't been very good, because he was actually possessed by the brood when he like brought all the New Mutants on. So
Oh,
he tries to kill them.
oh,
Yeah, so he apologizes for that and is like, I'm gonna do the best for you guys that I can. And then this issue, he's just like, no, see, Team America is just too important, so I have to like fuck off and like mess
yeah.
with them for a while. Yeah, it's just like,
It's not just a they were snubbed by Xavier. It was more so like, we want Team America to be really important,
yeah,
and
it's cheap, and
it was cheap. Yeah,
it sucks because I will say this, like, they did a good job of organically bringing the New Mutants to Team America. Like, that was pretty realistic, because, like, the New Mutants do fun things in their off
yeah,
time. And they
yeah,
went to a fair, and yeah, like, but like also like Bobby like loved Team America so much and like knew everything about them, so we could have exposition on them. And it was just like, okay, because this doesn't make sense, because Sunspot actually in New Mutants, like the beginning of New Mutants, which is only 5 issues before where this issue is, he
right,
actually lived in, I think it was Rio de Janeiro.
right. He mentions that he's Brazilian.
Yeah, he's Brazilian, so it's like, is Team America like world famous? Did they come to Brazil? Like, how do you know about this? Did you learn about it in the like, I'm guessing like couple of months you've been in the United States? It was just weird, and like
Yeah,
they
there
did a
was
good
a
job
lot of little
getting them
weird.
there, but like the exposition was weird.
Yeah, the relationship between Bobby and Wolf felt forced. Like, I know Wolf was
Yeah.
supposed to be like rough around the edges and stuff, but like, that was excessive.
Yeah,
And
like he's like attacking a kid, and I'm like, what? You're trying to get me to like these characters, and this guy's like a total prick.
yeah, like a total prick. Every little thing that came out of his mouth
Every single thing.
was like full of vitriol.
I don't know if he has like a redemption in the comic book, or comes around,
I
or
kind of hope he
shows.
does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to read it to find out, but I
Yeah,
hope
yeah,
that he
yeah,
does.
yeah. Yeah, I hope. So, like, with the escalation of conflict, like, I noticed like, so they kidnap Psyche, right? And Viper is like checking on her, and all of a sudden she wants to kill her. Like, Psyche freaked out.
Yeah,
Psyche
yeah.
freaked out and says, "I'll," and Viper is like, "I'll make you pay for that." And I was like, that escalated quickly. What the fuck? What the
Yeah,
hell?
I'm confused because, yeah, it's kind of weird because she says she's gonna kill her, and then like in the next panel that we see her, she's like, oh, she's just a hostage. Like, I'm sure she means that she's gonna kill her anyways if Team America doesn't help her, but like it was just, oh, this is kind of a theme with Danny, is that like she loses control of her power a lot, and people want to kill her for it because she shows like awful things they've been through. And like
Hmm.
sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it's a little bit of like, would this person really react this way? I mean, I guess if it
Like, the thing with
is,
Viper, I don't think she would have reacted that way. Like, that whole like, how dare you sort of
yeah, I
mentality.
think it's
And
supposed to be like your deepest, darkest, like
mm,
most primal horror.
Right, for sure. But
But at the same time,
how does
yeah, I
she
don't know.
how does she automatically know that it's the power of Psyche that's doing it? Like,
Yeah, that's true. That's something that I've kind of questioned a lot in the first 5 issues, is that sometimes it's obvious and the person would know that Danny was doing it. Other times it's not as obvious. So I don't know if there's just something like lost in communication. I don't know. Like in the issue before this, they actually like, it's a long story, but they have a kid, like a normal teenager, who's been making like calls to Stevie and like kind of like harassing her.
oh,
And it's a long story, but like Danny has to like pull out his like darkest fear or whatever.
hmm
And oh my god, my cat is going insane. Let me feed her real fast. One second. As I was saying before, I had to feed my cat who was going insane. Um, they kind of capture this boy who's been making like harassing phone calls to Stevie, and Professor X. It's stupid, but basically he makes Danny like pull out his darkest fear so that they can like understand what's going on with him. Yeah, it's super messed up. Like yeah, I'll have you watch the other the last video I made so you can understand that it's super messed up.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, so she pulls out his darkest fear and it turns out like his parents are abusive. So that's like part of his problem and you like see his parents like hitting him and somehow he knows that it was Danny who did it even though he has no idea what any of their powers are or even that he
Powers
kind
are a
of
thing.
he like
Yeah,
kind of knows they're mutants because he sees Rain like turn into a
a wolf.
werewolf and like they're using their powers trying to capture him, but still he's like confused. So I was kind of like, how would he even know that Danny was the one doing this? I mean,
Just
I
muddy writing, you
yeah, I
know.
mean it kind of she's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna do this, but in the moment I just don't think it would be very realistic that he would know. And like you pointed out, like would Viper really even know that it was like her mutant power or anything? I mean, Viper knows
Right,
about mutants, but she doesn't
right.
know Danny, obviously, because she
Well,
thinks
she
she's the
doesn't.
Dark Rider.
She's not super familiar with psychic attacks, right? So, and I'm a casual fan of Viper. Like, I know her from the Wolverine comics in the 90s. So like, I feel like they kind of like slapdash um made her like have a really short temper and like, I don't know, because she goes from wanting to kill her to being like, okay, so you're just hanging out in the hideout. Okay, like we're holding you hostage. And I was like, who, borderline? Like, or, bipolar? Like, what are they doing with Viper?
Yeah, it's weird and she's a lot different at this point, I think, in comics than she is later, because
She
from
is.
what I could tell, she was mostly in like other books, not even in the X-Men as much at this point, but I might be wrong about that.
Oh, I gotcha.
But yeah, it was super the writing is just so weird. And this is honestly one of the ones that I was just like not looking forward to. I think the next issue, this whole storyline is wrapped up and then they move on from there, thank God. But
Yeah,
this one was just
I'm kind of looking forward to reading the next issue, just in the case that I need closure. Like, this, there was a lot of opening of jars, but no closing of them.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes they do. New Mutants is a little bit more concise than X-Men usually is. Like
Right.
usually it's
It's
like
a
two
shorter.
comic books Like
Yeah.
1 to 2 issues is like a storyline, sometimes 3 at most.
Right.
And then there's like the overarching things that are like kind of
Meta
always
plot
there. Yeah.
sort of things. Yeah.
Yeah. I would definitely recommend you read probably issue 12 onward.
Okay.
I'd say 12 to about my friend Duna would probably agree with me here. Probably issue 12 to issue 75-ish.
Okay.
There's 100 total. It's a pretty quick read. I'd recommend those if you're going to read New Mutants. I mean, I would recommend everybody read all of it, but like honestly, like the very beginning is not the best, and the very end, in my opinion, there are people who feel differently. The end of New Mutants is not ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they like turn into X-Force in the last 10 issues, and it's just the
Yeah.
whole comic.
That's how I know Rain. Like
Yeah, everything changes completely, and it's like the book is unrecognizable, which is why they made it X-Force.
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't really have like a teenager team until Gen X.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I would recommend those. Also, like probably my favorites would be 50 to 50 to 75 is honestly my favorites of the New Mutants. But like in issue 12, it gets a lot better. And like I'm really biased, and I've said this over and over again, like Ilyana joins the team in issue 14, and I think that's a big reason why I start to like it a lot better. But honestly, just her joining the team, not just because she's my favorite, but she's just such an interesting addition.
Mm-hmm.
And then also you have Cypher join the team around like 20, and he's some people hate him, but I like him. And Warlock, you probably are familiar with, joins the team around the same time as Cypher. So like once it gets into there's like a core group that's my favorite lineup. Once it gets into like the 20s, you have that core group of New Mutants, and it's so much better than this period of New Mutants. So yeah, I am sorry that you had to start out like reading this, but I thank you, because I was just like, oh my god, like this is just terrible, and I'm just gonna like rag on this book the whole time. I have to make something better for this video.
I have to make something better. Yeah. Like it's Claremont, right? So like he's gonna have some weeds that you need to get through to get to the good stuff. But and like, so you mentioned Cypher and Warlock, and I just remember Douglock and Psylocke's like thing.
Oh yeah, they have actually Psylocke. I don't know if you know this. Her first appearance is in New Mutants Annual #2.
Yeah.
And she's Betsy, of course, in that. And her and Doug kind of have a
thing,
a connection, not a thing, just kind of like a flirtation. So
Yeah.
there is actually like that like kind of comes up in the comic books before even Douglock, which is interesting. But yeah, Claremont, I think is I everybody loves him for good reasons, I think.
I think they overlook the cons.
Yeah,
And
it's like hard though, because it was a different era. Like I hate to be the person who's like, well, it was a different time. But honestly, it was like
It
a
was.
different time. And
Yeah.
I think if he had been a writer today, I think he would have like include like gay characters, trans characters,
He was
like
inclusive.
like
Yeah.
more women, more different races. Like he was very inclusive, so I really do respect the guy for that. Like,
Mhm.
and I think he tries his best and he pushes things as much as he can. That would be my opinion on it. But sometimes in his quest to be inclusive. He's a little bit tone deaf, and he's an old white dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay. And it was the early 80s. I'm not saying like,
No, he was progressive for the time.
yeah,
He
for
was.
sure. So I get what they were trying to do with Team America, but just boo, wah wah, fails.
Won't want fail. It was forced, and
Yeah.
it was kind of like, taking a spoon of like cod liver oil and like forcing it into the child. Like, it was just kind of like you wince your way through it,
Yeah.
and
I did warn you though. I
yes,
did
you
warn you.
did. Yes, you did. It's not the worst comic I ever read.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not the
I've read
worst comic.
some really terrible things, but that were X-Men, but like, I'm overall, I think this is a stepping stone to something good. Like, it's all the
Yeah.
background
The
stuff.
next issue is much better.
It's all the background stuff, but putting all the background stuff into one issue seems desperate. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, and they didn't just do this in New Mutants. They did it, I
They did.
believe,
They did it all
the
the time.
Hulk,
Mm-hmm.
Captain America, and maybe Fantastic Four.
Mm.
I'm not sure. I know that Team America was kind of sprinkled into books all across Marvel because they, like I said, they were really trying to make it a thing.
And Marvel was really fond of crossover books.
Yeah, they love their crossovers.
So instead of giving Team America their own comic, like they
They
would like,
have their own comic.
oh, they do.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, surprise, surprise, we've never heard about it, but like I didn't know that either until I looked it up. But yes, they had a comic book. Um, I think they had like 26 issues. I could be wrong on that.
Oh, I
And
bet
then it
you
was
it was a
canceled.
short.
Yeah, it was pretty short. And yeah, they changed their name. Let me look at
Oh.
Thunder Riders. That's what they changed their name to. So they were no longer Team America. They became Thunder Riders, and yeah, it was canceled pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It was like, and the weirdest thing about Thunder Riders is that they showed up in a comic book. If I'm getting this right, I hope I am. I'm gonna have to fact check this later. But just talking off the cuff, they appeared somewhere, disbanded, then reformed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then they had their comic book, and then it was canceled, and they might have been mentioned maybe once or twice after that, and then they were done.
Yeah, and Marvel was like really, I mean, like, all throughout time, right? Marvel was like, we really want people to be into this character. And so for like an issue, maybe 5, like there was like a focus on that character. And like,
Yes.
so like in the 90s, it was like, they went through this like phase where it was a different new character every other issue, and it was hard to like attach yourself to a character because they were so brief, but like some of the concepts were lackluster.
Honestly, this is my hot take. That's how I feel about Cable. I feel like I know a lot of people love Cable, but I feel like Marvel was like, let's make Cable a thing. Like, Cable's going to be our next thing. And like everything at a certain point in X-Men even seems to be about Cable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
he was part of the meta plot there for a minute.
Yes, and I actually do like later books from like recently about Cable. He's
Oh
a lot
yeah,
more interesting. Yeah, the character is much better.
they cleaned up Cable in like the 2000s. Like it didn't have the 80s grit that was quintessential for the time.
I'm pretty sure Cable actually debuted in New Mutants.
Yeah,
I think it's like issue 80 something.
because he was like the spearhead for X Force. Like,
Yes, he took the New Mutants and made them gritty.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I also think that part of the problem with Cable and why I like him more now is that he's in the hands of a different writer. His
Mm-hmm.
creation was a Rob Liefeld thing, and anyone who knows
Oh,
me knows that I have an eternal revenge quest against Rob Liefeld.
Leafield.
Yeah.
Leafield. The problem
Leafield,
with
yeah.
the problem with Leafield is that he was a terrible writer. He was a
Oh,
terrible
awful.
artist, but he's such a lovable guy.
He seems
Like
super cool.
he's super cool and like really sweet and like really prolific, right? So of course Marvel was like
Yeah,
and
I just
gave him like free reign over like a handful of like concept designs, which was a
yes.
mistake, which was a big mistake.
The only issue I have with him as a person is I remember reading that he was angry that one of the characters he created turned out to be gay. But
Yes.
later yeah,
Shatterstar.
Shatterstar. And later he kind of came out and was like, I don't really care that much. But I
Yeah.
think initially he was not happy
He was
about
like,
that.
I think he wasn't happy about his characters evolving out of his control.
Yeah, I mean, as a writer, I get that. That would be hard.
I don't think Leafield had anything against gay people.
Yeah, I don't think he's like a horrible like homophobe or anything, but it did
Nothing like
just
that.
rub me a little bit the wrong way.
Yeah. That he was bothered by someone messing with his intellectual property, like, but he did it for Marvel, and like the story wasn't his anymore,
It's
and
true.
he he had trouble letting go of control.
I don't even know what he does nowadays. I guess he still illustrates comics.
Um, I don't know that he even does that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But mostly I hate him because he was the person who changed to the New Mutants and made it end. So
So Rob Liefeld left Marvel.
he went to Image, right?
Top Cow. Yeah,
I know
Liefeld left Image,
he has
and
drawn for DC too, I think. Not a lot, not as much as Marvel, but I believe he has.
hmm. Oh, I found his website. What is he doing these days? I think he's still doing Deadpool
That makes sense.
and a little bit of Spider-Man. He's a much better illustrator now than he was in the 90s, that's for sure.
That's good. I stand an artist that can grow.
Yeah, he definitely grew. Aw, he's so cute. And
He was in a
the
jeans commercial. Did you know that?
no,
Yeah, yeah, you should look it up. I think it was Calvin Klein, but I'm not sure.
oh my god,
Calvin Klein or Levi's.
I'm curious as to how recent this stuff. $60 for the exclusive Liefeld Virgin variant of Deadpool #6.
Not surprised. Deadpool is another character that debuted in the New Mutants.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing is like New Mutants has a lot of like a lot of stuff happened in the New Mutants that's actually kind of important to like the X universe, and I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah,
But
I have like a love-hate relationship with Lee Field for that reason, because like the transition between Jim Lee and Lee Field was like so gradual that like elementary school SAKO was having trouble differentiating one artist from the other. So, I mean, I learned a lot from Lee Field as well as Jim Lee.
I mean, I think personally Jim Lee is like God
He,
tier,
he
and
is
that
God tier, especially these days. Holy
yeah, and
cannoli.
Lee Field is more like way down below that.
Um, his art is like better than it was in the 90s. It is. Like if you put like I would say Jim Lee is God tier, and also doing DC by the by.
Yeah, I saw that the not too long ago.
Yeah. And Lee Field is like, because he did the concept work and the original footwork for a lot of the X-Men, a lot of the universe, like I can't be that mad at him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's hard because there's a lot of artists that maybe aren't the best artist, or maybe not the best people, or maybe kind of like did things that I disagreed with, and editors and writers as well, but you kind of have to love them in a way because they're part of the mythology. I mean, you
Right,
don't have to like excuse their bad behavior or agree with it, and you can call them out on it, but like, you know, and you can not like an artist personally, but like you do have to kind of respect everybody who made the tapestry happen.
right, right,
Like an
exactly.
interesting thing about art is like in this issue, I believe it was Sal Buscema, Buscema,
Buscemi.
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 Yeah, Sal Buscemi like did the art, and he's
Mhm.
doing the pencil, or no, he's doing the final inking, and I can't remember who's doing the pencils on this, but like another big name artist around this time, and I really find that they both seem to emulate the X-Men art of this time.
Mhm.
And I think actually once New Mutants breaks free of that and Sankovic takes over, that's
Mhm.
when the New Mutants gets good. And the writing seems to like also become more experimental and a lot more mature along with the pencils. So I always think it's interesting to like look at comic books like not only for like what is the story about, but like how does the art actually help the writers
Tell
come
the
up with things.
story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when an artist is more talented, I find that writers write better because they know
They
the
try.
artist can handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. As a person who writes comics for artists, like you tailor it for the artist. You tailor the script for the artist. So because you know they can handle it. Like you kind of like get a good feel for their abilities and whether or not they can actually accomplish the camera views that you have written. So I feel like the relationship between uh, writer and artist was somewhat disjointed in the early days of like New Mutants and
Oh
Uncanny and stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, they
They were
talk
trying to
about
figure out their power couples, and
yeah.
they just had to go through the gauntlet of like kind of like speed dating, you
Yeah, and
know?
the thing was like actually like we make fun of Thunder Riders for being pushed, but New Mutants was actually kind of similar in the beginning. Nobody wanted to make this comic book at all. And they were
Mhm.
kind of like, well, and Marvel was like, if you do it, that's good, but like we're gonna make this with or without you. Like you can either help us get paid or, not.
Or
So
not.
the
Yeah.
creators didn't really have a choice. So of course they were emulating X-Men because X-Men was like their most popular, well, one of their most popular books, and it was a spin-off of X-Men. And once they break free of that, it's just so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know when Cannonball's first appearance happened, but
Giant, or it's like an
annual, like,
annual kind of. It's
oh,
like I think it's annual number Marvel Team Up, or no, not Marvel Team Up. It's basically there's a big graphic novel that all of the New Mutants debut in, except for Shan. She actually debuted earlier, but like she
oh,
wasn't like a main character anywhere. She just had like a one-off appearance.
right. I got you.
So
Cool.
Cannonball was then. Um, Cannonball's an interesting dude. I wasn't super fond of him when I was younger, but this time around, I've really liked him a lot better.
Um, I like his, like, uh that superhero streak in him that
Yeah,
kind of moves the story forward. He They use Sam in a way that um he he moves the story forward. Like, he creates enough conflict. He's the one who starts the fights. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Usually he starts the fights. Sometimes Shan is the one who. Shan is kind of the leader early on.
Yeah.
It's a shame they like get rid of her and drop her out of the book constantly because she's a really good character and I think a really good leader. But after Shan leaves, Sam is pretty much the leader. Well, he kind of shares it with Danny. Um,
Hmm.
in the third edition of New Mutants, which came out more recently, Sam and Danny kind of have a thing, but they're also like co-leaders, and that was really interesting. I
Okay.
That's what yeah, it was. I didn't expect that, but I didn't hate it.
Yeah. X-Men is chock full of, like, soap opera style stories. Like,
Yeah,
they
definitely.
were my stories when I was a teenager. Like,
Yeah, there's a definite reason that I liked this comic book over all the other ones because I was close in age to the kids at this point in the comic, and you know, I liked that I'm not like a huge like romance person, but I kind of like romance if it's done in a certain way, and I
yeah,
actually
me too.
liked the way X-Men and New Mutants did romance. Like, I was more invested in it than I was in other cartoons or other movies. Like, I was never
I
like,
have to agree.
yeah,
Their relationships were, I mean, like, relationships that were kind of negative, um felt forced, but the relationships that were positive were expertly done,
yeah, I would
and
say yes.
kind of set the bar for media in general to handle relationships that actually included, people of color and people of other sexual.
Yeah, I think it's no, like, I don't have any doubts why people really love the X-Men and New Mutants by extension is it's the whole found family thing. Like most people really
Right.
love that. It's the
Hmm.
inclusivity, it's the found family, it's the relationships because I could never get into Captain America or Fantastic Four
Yeah.
I mean, now it's different because we have the Marvel Cinematic Universe and their relationships are a lot more fleshed out.
They're
And
trying. They're trying.
yeah, I'm sure if I read more of those books, maybe I would find relationships, but I tried to I tried to read a lot of Spider-Man, I tried to read a lot of Fantastic Four, and it didn't hit the same way. Like the relationships just weren't as good, and I felt less invested in the action because I didn't care who or what was happening really.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it's also interesting that they do have some kind of toxic like personalities and relationships. Like one of the ones that
Nothing's going to be perfect, and they kind of like they like throwing little wrenches into what appears to be perfect. You
yeah, it's
know,
super clever.
it and they do this over and over and over again. I feel like it's just a quality of X-Men comics that um, they were consistent with. They might not be consistent with backstories, but and like usage of powers and stuff like that, but they were consistent with how they made a story. It's and
Yeah.
it's not that they had a template. That was not the case. But like they had like a formula for conflict, you know,
Yes.
and it worked out. Sometimes it felt kind of forced, but in general, like it, I thought they did a really good job of it and kind of set the bar for media in general.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's so weird to think that Marvel was basically like really in financial trouble for most of their run. Maybe not now because they've been sold, you know, to
To
Disney.
Disney, yeah.
But like I watched an interview where one of the artists was talking about not only were they separated from the writers and there was not really any crossover, this was back in like the late 70s, I believe, but they would actually like rush to get the paychecks because if you were last, your check might not clear.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'll look it up after we get off this call, and so I can add a note to that, like saying where I saw this because I'm trying to remember exactly who it was, but it was a larger like creator in Marvel, like kind of one of the more famous ones was just like, yeah, like we kind of didn't know month
if
to
we
month if things were going to even continue on or if we were going to get paid or if books would shut down. So it seemed kind of dicey. So the fact that they were like working under this stress and they were still, they could have just only like put out like slop, but they really pushed themselves and did high quality material. That's really impressive to me, and it really shows that these artists do have so much passion, and the
mhm.
writers and everyone else, obviously, that everyone who made these comics loved them. I mean,
And
maybe
did
not.
the hell out of them. Like
Yeah.
it shows that um, having passion for the subject and for the characters and for the story, that moving it forward is like turning on the tap. Like it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, even to bring it back to New Mutants 5, you know, they didn't. I'm sure the writers and artists were like, "Oh god," about like Team America, but they tried their best. They actually did try.
They
I
actually
mean,
did try.
it wasn't successful in my opinion, but they tried at least, and
Yeah.
I think comics nowadays I have mixed feelings. Like sometimes I feel like certain comics I'm like, okay, they're still trying. They're really pushing this medium forward. They're trying to do something different. Other comics not as much. I think also though they're kind of maybe running out of ideas, and it's good to see. I've noticed since I've started reading again that there are more, younger voices, and there's younger artists, and things are becoming different.
Yeah. But again, there's no backstory as far as like some of the more recent stuff. So for those of us who read through the series, like we're like, wait a minute, that's not congruent. Like what why? Yeah. So
Yeah, I had to like sort out the different realities that I guess Marvel had, like Marvel
Siege Perilous.
616 and
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah. I was very confused when I came back. I was just like, I don't know what to read or where or why or
It was real bad in AOA. Like that you have to collect 7 like streams of comics, and keeping up was expensive and hard.
Yeah, that is one thing that I will say I love about indie comic books is most of the time there's no crossover. I mean, crossovers are great; they're super interesting. But like, I'm actually going to talk about a crossover, um, X-Men and the Micronauts because the New
Oh.
Mutants was in it.
Hmm.
Wasn't it? We're in it, and so I'm going to talk about that and maybe even the Secret War a little bit.
Okay.
Secret Wars 1 and 2.
Hmm. Hmm.
But indie comic books don't have as many crossovers, so it's so much cheaper and easier to collect. So I read indie comics mostly for a long time. It took me a while to come back to X-Men. Like I still from time to time would pick up like New Mutants comic books if I saw them somewhere. But
Yeah.
like I would say I wasn't actually actively collecting Marvel for a long time. And coming back was kind of weird, and when I first came back, like, I didn't like anything, but then, like, right around the time I entered college, like, the newest edition, the newest version of New Mutants came back, and I actually really loved it because it was all the original characters and new adventures. So it was just like an extension of this series that I love so much. Finally, like it was like finally I got new stories about the characters I actually cared about. So that's what actually brought me back to X-Men and Marvel in general. Like even I didn't even really watch any Marvel movies. I'm not a huge Marvel Cinematic Universe fan. Like
Oh,
some of it's
okay.
good, some of
It's
it's bad.
ultimates. It's
Yeah.
ultimates, like and that was the initial um like jumping point was X-Men Ultimates, which was like a really short-lived thing in 2000. Um uh yeah, like I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, I think it's I'm sure that this type of stuff still happens nowadays with like Marvel where the like I guess what I'm talking about is this Team America debacle.
Mhm.
That probably still happens, but I
It
would
does.
wager to guess it happens less
Mhm.
because it seems like
Instead, they'll corrupt the old characters.
oh
Like
yeah, they'll just yeah.
they're like, "Oh, let's make a new character out of this old character," and that breaks my heart. Like I I kind of wish they didn't do stuff like that.
Yeah, it's also like it's hard because nobody wants to see the characters age, you know what I mean? So they have to
Yes.
keep finding creative ways to keep everybody the same-ish age. Like I think at this point Shadowcat Kitty Pryde is like 25. I
Hmm.
mean, she's been under 30 since the 80s. No,
Right.
late 70s, late
Late
70s.
70s. Yeah.
Even like I didn't realize this, but in Excalibur, she's like 16 years old,
Yeah.
17 years old, and I
Yeah.
thought she was like in her 20s. So the whole like Pete Wisdom thing becomes a little bit weirder now.
Yeah.
But also like bringing up Shadowcat, like when we talk about like our characters being changed, one change I did like is that Shadowcat didn't end up marrying Colossus. She
Mhm.
said no at the altar, I guess. And I
Mhm.
thought that was like kind of a good character growth for them because it would have been cheap to just marry them off, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to do a whole separate video on Peter and Kitty because that's just a whole
It
can of worms.
that is a whole can of worms and deserves at least a little attention.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, like these characters, people don't want them to age. And so they have to be super creative to work around that. And I kind of understand why they're like, well, we're going to make a new reality, or, Professor X is killed, so that resets everything, or, um, all different things like that. It's just they're written into a corner in a way. So I feel like it's kind of their fault. Like maybe they should be more creative, but I also kind of understand why these writers do flounder from time to time and have to do weird things like make altars of people and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
All right, we're nearing an hour, but we'll have our final thoughts. We kind of went everywhere, but I knew that would happen, and I was excited to talk to you about comics again. But basically, New Mutants #5 is not good.
It's like if we were to score it, like I would give it a 1 out of 3.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 10
Yeah.
because there was
It's
a couple things I liked.
yeah.
It wasn't the worst comic ever. Like it wasn't, void of anything good.
Mhm.
But it was just it's one of my least favorite in the series. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I gave it a 4. I thought the art was kind of boring. I did like that the kids kind of struggled when they were fighting people because I complained about this earlier on that the kids never seemed to like struggle when they were fighting with people, and that seemed unrealistic to me because they don't know how to control their powers. But I mean, X-Men's had this issue sometimes too, where people maybe just a little too proficient if the need arises. So I was happy that there was a little bit of action and that they didn't just, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
I do kind of think the Dark Rider thing was okay. Like at least it was like some sort of action, and it was kind of mysterious, like, you didn't know why, but then they just immediately are like, "Oh, Cerebro says it's because they're mutants," and you're just like, "Oh, well, okay."
Yeah.
Yeah, art wasn't terrible, not my favorite. Story was blah, Team America, big nope. Um, Professor Xavier, I'll leave you with this too, like, I kind of in my last video talked about how Xavier is not super perfect with the kids.
Well,
And it
right.
shows at the end of this book, especially, but he does weird things where he's constantly like beaming thoughts into their heads.
Yeah.
And it just rereading it like as an adult, it makes me pretty uncomfortable. So that was another reason that I scored it kind of low. It just, yeah, like we said earlier, it's cheap. It's just not a good comic book.
It was a stepping stone to something better.
Now I'm curious, when you read the next issue, let me know.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll wrap up our talk because I'm sure you have things to do today.
You-
All right, well, everyone, this was SaKO with me. This is Ashling. We were talking about New Mutants #5. I hope you liked our talk. I will leave SaKO's socials in the description box. And as always, have a great day or night. I'll see you later. Ashling out.